I feel like an AA meeting. I'm Andrew. I work for a gas boiler manufacturer. And clearly we're not the future. However, if we were, I guess some of the challenges we face would be the ones I'm going to touch on here. So I work for Baxi. Baxi's a name some of you, if not all of you, will recognize. We are these days part of a Dutch-owned group. We are the third biggest player in Europe. We manufacture about 1.3 million boilers per annum. And Baxi these days, clearly it's part of the UK market, but it's also a big part of Italy, of Spain, of Russia, of the United States of America, of China. So it's a business now that has global reach. So what do we think around what the challenges are here? So I think we clearly as an established industry player participate with the HHIC, the Heating and Hot Water Industry Council, and we've recently done a large piece of work trying to get to grips with this issue of, so how do we make the future practical? So there's lots of good ideas about technology and there's lots of marvelous things that can be done, but in reality, how does that become practical for real people? And I noticed outside one of the work streams out there talked about this idea of consumer behavioral psychology and, how do you commercialize products and bring them to market? And I guess that's the challenge we're facing. And we face it in the commercial market as well as the domestic market, albeit the commercial market responds very well. It's a specified market and it responds to the regulations in a more disciplined way, shall we say. The domestic market doesn't operate like that. So I'm going to talk about the domestic market because for many people, it's where the rubber hits the road. So when we look at the DEC documents, and we're very supportive of the direction that DEC's taking, certainly 18 months ago, the future was all electric. And from our point of view, we struggled with that, and the HHIC struggled with that concept. And as Lindsay talked about, when you look at peak demand, electricity just can't cope, unless we're going to build a phenomenal amount of power stations that in practical terms we can't really afford, if indeed we could build them anyway. So from our point of view, gas absolutely has a role going forward. However, if we're going to meet that legally binding targets that have been set out, particularly around the 2027 carbon budget, because that's in law, we've committed to it, and whilst politically, of course, we could, I'm sure the government at the moment could change or shimmy the target along a little bit, we're taking the view that it is an important topic and it is something we should be leading Europe, we should be leading markets upon, and it's important not to shimmy the target. But if we're going to see fairly significant reductions, what does that journey look like? And in a near time, from our point of view of 2027, what's it going to look like? Now, as a number of the speakers today are talking about, there's lots of views on this topic, and there's lots of, there's a political agenda of varying flavors here, whether that's considered to be domestic politics or European or international politics. There is that agenda about security and how do we achieve our carbon targets in a more challenging energy security environment. How do we get the right sort of solution to market so that, whatever your lens is that you're looking at it, you can say, yes, I really believe that that is a renewable technology. And clearly, from our point of view, there's the commercial agenda. So one of the pieces of work that we did, in actual fact, with Delta was put together a pathways document. And we looked at, in order to get the sort of reductions required, by 2027, what's actually required. Now that's quite a selfish perspective from the manufacturer's point of view, because 2027 isn't that far away. The average life of a domestic boiler, a lot lasts longer, but let's say the average life is about 12 years. So what's going in next year will most probably still be going strong in 2027. And clearly, as the clock ticks down to 2020, in the next 5 years, clearly those products will absolutely be going good and strong in 2027. So if come 2027 we're expecting some sort of transformational miracle on the domestic space heating in terms of the type of appliances that are going in, we need to get our skates on. Because again, from a manufacturing and a commercial point of view, these things always take time. Look at electric cars. They've been discussed for some time. The market is still struggling to get going. And the reason it's important to us is this whole challenge of where do we place our investment. Because again, like very many big, commercial organisations, of course we've got fuel cell trials going on. Of course we've got gas absorption trials going on. And of course we are looking to innovate in a whole large number of areas. But where do we place our bets? And how do we get a bit greater, greater sense of where to place our bets? So one of the pieces of work we did with the help of Delta was to put together this balanced scenario, and I'll talk about it in a moment, which puts a slightly different twist on some of the things that have already been talked about. And from our point of view, it's important because we need help in order to make it happen. And if the regulators and the legislators think that we're going to have a different carbon future, then they're going to need to get more stuck in, we believe, in order to make this transition happen. But we absolutely believe there's going to be a mixture of technologies. So what we did with the help of Delta is, and you saw it from one of Lindsay's slides, is take the property mix in the UK at 24 million odd homes, looked at the insulation levels that are currently achieved, what the insulation levels could be achieved, looked at some of the practical type of solutions or technologies that could be put in. So this takes, assume the flat market, and this is domestic heating appliances. The market has been between 1.4 and 1.6 million gas boilers for the last 10 years. So barring a revolution, it's going to be, everyone believes, similar. And at the minute, certainly if you take 2014, the number was a little bit higher than that because of the ECO program, but the numbers in and around there at 1.5 million. So the dark blue is gas boilers. So if we believe we are going to hit the 2050 number for carbon emissions, we've got to hit a number by 2027, otherwise the journey doesn't work. And in order to do that, you've got to believe you have a pure gas boiler market of somewhere around about 400,000 units. And these are carbon calculations rather than what might be desirable. Because clearly, I think that number should be up here. As you go through some of the other strands, what we'll then start to get into is gas absorption heat pumps or air source heat pumps with a gas boiler, or in some cases micro CHP, and obviously we have a micro CHP unit on the market. Others, I'm sure, will join in soon as well, albeit those technologies aren't without their difficulties. So this, as a practical, theoretical model, works from a carbon point of view. But clearly, our concern is, how do you get that sort of change through to 2020 and then continue to see that sort of change happen? Because what it would mean is a fairly significant reduction in the gas boiler market. And given that at the minute, gas boilers form the predominant solution, it would require that gas plus, so gas plus a solar panel, gas plus an air source heat pump, gas plus something, a set of sophisticated controls, some, level of innovation around radiators, gas plus greater levels of insulation in the home. Gas plus would need to be about 70% of the market by 2027. So that's, from next year, that's 12 years or so. So that's, from a commercial point of view, that's quite a shift. It's not without precedent. You look what's happened in mobile, everyone's fully familiar with mobile communications, and that has revolutionized in a relatively short period of time. If you look at the emission standards on cars, again, it's not that long ago that 200, grams of carbon dioxide for an average medium-sized car, that's fallen significantly. So it's not impossible, but it does require some not inconsiderable effort. That model back there also requires district heat networks to be a reality. We're probably, whilst we'd be delighted if that was true, because we, manufacture lots of beautiful, very efficient, fabulous, you're all welcome to buy one, big plant room boilers, we do all of that. Our experience to date on heat networks is they're hard going. They require multiple technologies, multiple solutions, multiple stakeholders to buy in to getting that solution to market, and that always provides a level of complexity. And it also requires air source heat pumps and micro CHP and some of the other technologies to up their game, either in their price performance ratio or just in their heat output. Because air source heat pumps are super when they're in a uber insulated building. Even the high temperature ones are a bit more challenging when you get into the bulk of the dwellings in the UK. Now clearly, once you get past 2030, easy peasy, game goes on, and we're starting to roll out, and at that point a lot of these technologies will be accepted. So one of the things that we're doing is talking consistently with our colleagues at DEC and talking regularly about what would the frameworks need to be in place to make this a reality. So why do I say it's a big challenge? And just to illuminate that a little further, at the minute, the challenge is getting people to move away from a gas boiler. Because at the minute, lowest cost wins. So in the recently published ONS statistics, there are still about 10 million boilers out there that are non-condensing. So we're replacing 1.5 a year, that's great. Still about around 10 million that are non-condensing. So there's about 30% saving if they could switch even just to the best technology today. At the minute, we, like a number of the boiler manufacturers, make our spares available for old boilers. You can talk to any number of consumers who say, actually it's about £100 to get my boiler fixed, and it's about £2,500 to £3,000 to get it replaced. What shall I do today? I'll get it fixed. And if you, sad like I am, when you get into the commercial market and you watch the performance of the spares market has been, not surprisingly, since 2008, the spares market has been buoyant. In fact, some would say even peaking, as consumers take practical solutions to their heating. They'll either turn it down, turn it on, and if it breaks, they'll fix it, rather than replacing it. The new carbon technologies, RHI will undoubtedly help. It's been very powerful in the commercial sector. It's a good thing. We back it. However, again, take-up is relatively, or the market at the minute is still relatively low. So we're very much in the place of carrots and sticks will be required. So we're talking actively with the department, and I'm personally passionate about sticks piece because we're already starting to get some carrots in place. But for me, I think commercially there is a reality of us requiring sticks if we're serious about making this sort of transition. And we've also got to consider what real people do. So one of the things that we do, as you would expect a lot of as a consumer product manufacturer, is we talk to customers a lot, an awful lot. And we've recently just finished a big survey of 2,500 homeowners, just talking to them about this whole idea of energy efficiency and what do you think and why do you do what you do. So we talked to that group, in this case a sample of 2015, and said, climate change, what do you think? So a third said a big concern. Nearly half said, don't really get that idea. Doesn't really affect me. And this is a statistically, geographically, demographically, from a social perspective, a statistically sound group of people. We were a little surprised. It was maybe quite some negative. Yes. About 6 weeks ago.
So after this winter spray?
Yes. Yes. This is recent stuff. Would the threat of climate change encourage people to make changes to their homes? Some, for sure. Some would. A bunch wouldn't. And I think, as the question from the floor, a lot of this, when you dive down further through the statistics, it's about the economics. If it isn't broken, can I fix it? If I'm replacing it, why would I do that? Are you going to pay me to do it? Is it worth, am I going to get a good rate of return? Why should I do that or make that change? And the other thing we ask consumers about is how worried are you about your fuel bills? I didn't bring the slide because it's like many things, this deck goes on forever, and it seems more appropriate just to give you a few highlights. But on heating concerns, 35% of people in a statistically sound survey were concerned about their heating. However, that paled into insignificance against the 65% who were very concerned about the price of food, and the 49% who were very concerned about the price of fuel for their car. So, again, from a manufacturing point of view, not to belittle the challenge that we're seeking to solve here, real people are looking at this and saying, yeah, I sort of get it, but I sort of don't. You've got to make it more compelling for me. The digital revolution. Last night, for those watching the Worldwide Developer Conferences, we've seen Apple announce HomeKit to allow developers to create home networks for appliances, and no doubt, I'm sure in Apple's autumn announcements, you wouldn't have to be a genius to see iHome or something similar appearing. I'm sure as those developers get to work as we go into 2015, there will be a raft of solutions. And a bit like the Android game, I'm sure Google Nest will make similar announcements later on this summer. So technology will absolutely help. It's got a big role to play here. So we asked our panel, these people, lots of them with smartphones, about what they thought about this. We also did this installers, and installers, at the minute, it's about 75% of installers have mobile comms and are actively using it for business. So digital revolution, would you use it? No. It wasn't really supposed to be that answer, actually. We were sort of wanting that to be, yes, I'd love it. When are you introducing it? The answer's no. And again, when you go through this from a demographic point of view, the younger profile consumers say, yeah, no, I would get that. The challenge in this particular market is, not to paint too negative a picture, most of the homeowners aren't young. So the young ones get it, but they've got to grow up and get richer to afford to buy a place from their parents in order to use it. So again, clearly this is early phase and early stage, but real life says, I'm not so sure about it, and actually I'll continue to fix rather than replace. Now, from our commercial point of view, this is clearly one of the challenges we've got. We and others have got to do a much better job of communicating why it would be of benefit, how much money you would save, why the new products do provide some of those solutions. We've got a big job to do on the training front, and I sort of talk a bit about on the other boiler manufacturers, the Bosch and the Valens and the Ideal, the other boiler manufacturers in this space. Everybody has big training programs that go on, and we all see thousands of installers every year, and it's a very important part of what we do to try and get and keep the standard up. So clearly we've got our part to play. However, there are a bunch of factors that are pushing against this sort of change, which will need, going back to carrots and sticks, some level of regulation in order to shift. Because the challenge in many ways is this one. 1.6 million boilers go in every year in the domestic market. It's pretty consistent. And at the minute, certainly if you look at this year's, the stats are published every month. This year, boiler markets, slowing down a little bit at the minute, but the boiler market's growing. They're still going in. They're going in social housing, they're going in private dwellings, they're going in the landlord market, and there's some evidence of refurbishment. And people are upgrading to the latest technology, and it's better than it used to be. But if you believe this as a carbon solution, those people need to make a step change, a different sort of performance. And even fabulous though we are, we struggle to get, the minute we can get that sort of to 94% efficiency, it's great. Much more than that it is required in order to be able to meet the targets. So for us, this is still a very real and very live debate with the regulators and the policymakers about what other forces can we bring to bear. And clearly as a manufacturer, where do we invest our money? Because which of these technologies is going to win? And I think if we were placing our bets today, we focus a lot, like others, focus a lot about hybrids and a lot about how do we get the technologies to blend, but also how do you make it practical, simple to install, and also easy for consumers to understand why they might want one. I would probably just summarize in saying it's all about practical solutions for real life, because however good the idea, when the rubber hits the road, you've got to get real people to part with money and see it as the most important thing they've got to do with their money. And certainly in the cycle we are at the minute, that doesn't appear to be the case. Thank you very much.